be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave platforms on the internet immunity because they were thought to be just pass-throughs, that they shouldn't be judged for the content that is posted. But we now know that that was an overly simple view, that if the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not just the social and psychological effects, it's real harm.
Now, for free speech absolutists like myself, repealing Section 230 would result in censorship. Many users erupted over this on X, writing, quote, "The key word here is control. This is how communists talk. She said the quiet part out loud. I don't think she was supposed to do that. I thought the whole point of freedom was not to be controlled. Shouldn't she be in jail already?"
Have you any idea how successful censorship is on TV? Don't know the answer? Successful, isn't it?
You know, we've had dozens of videos where we discuss about censorship, about adult content, about how there are those out there throughout the world, including in this country, who want to impose a censorship, especially in the United States, of our First Amendment rights here in the U.S., freedom of speech. They don't like what we say. They call it misinformation, hate speech. But I'll tell you something. Who deems misinformation? Who is the arbiter of saying, well, that's misinformation? That's a good question. The other is, there is no such thing as hate speech, according to the Supreme Court, in the multiple cases that have been brought. I think the last one was 2016. This is where the point, and we're back. In fact, in this session coming up of the Supreme Court, we got the age verification laws in the crosshairs through the several organizations, including the ACLU, who are suing to remove age verification laws throughout the country, Utah specifically, and Texas. But just recently, now we have the elections around the corner. We're starting to see those who are politicians or who formerly politicians that are sitting there that's saying we need to curb free speech on the internet. There are those who basically they want to repeal the First Amendment and certain laws within them, like Section 230, because they don't like what people talk about them, that some truths come out in the open. They don't want that. It affects their business. It affects the money in their pocket. It affects their livelihood. It affects their freedom, because a lot of the stuff that they've caused could end up to be jail time for some of them. And recently we've heard from Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State and former Democratic president candidate. I'm going to read this off XBiz, and this is Hillary Clinton wants to repeal Section 230. Coming from her, I'll tell you, this is somewhat, they criticize the Republican side for saying about that they didn't trust the election in 2020. But meanwhile, they were in the forefront in 2016 saying this. But the difference is that they had proof in 2020, which is still coming out in 2024. We're learning about this now. But back in 2016, they just were saying Russia, Russia, Russia. They did this, that. They were immediately, soon as he won, and not even before he took office, there were calls to impeach him. Remember that. So let's read this off XBiz. Former Democratic presidential candidate, Secretary of State, and First Lady Hillary Clinton gave an interview to CNN on Saturday as part of her campaign push on behalf of Kamala Harris, where she called for a total repeal of Section 230, known to the digital rights activists. It's not we're activists, it's we're digital rights, as the First Amendment of the First Amendment of the Internet. Under Section 230, Internet platforms that host and moderate user-generated content, including adult content, cannot be generally sued for that content. And see, this is what I told you in the past. They would love to get rid of Section 230, and this is on both sides of the aisle. You know, you have the radical Democrats, and you have the radical religious right on the right, that they would love, and this is not only the Catholics, it's also the Mormons, that they would love to get rid of the adult industry. But what do they mean by the porn industry? But they call it adult content. What is adult content? You know, this is what they don't really go into. They try to push porn and adult content that's in the same context, but what does adult content mean? That means any media, entertainment, stuff like that, newspapers, books, movies, and stuff like that, for anyone over the age of 18. So you want to put a halt on that. Let's continue on. With CNN's host Michael Cornish, Clinton repeated her dislike for Section 230 protections, a stance that she shares with numerous politicians on both parties. No, the problem is the criticism for Section 230 is that you have platforms like this particular one and Facebook, used to be X, that basically they curbed speech, which would make them publishers and not platforms. The perfect example is when X, when formerly Twitter, banned the New York Post article on the Hunter Biden laptop, calling it misinformation. But we know today that basically it exists. It's not a lie. It's not misinformation. As XBIS reported, both Donald Trump and Joe Biden openly and repeatedly advocated for the repeal of Section 230 during the 2020 campaign. Trump ultimately and unsuccessfully attempted to pass a repeal as an amendment to an unrelated bill during his chaotic lame duck period during the election he lost and the Jan 6 insurrection. Now, there's a part in there, and I don't like that part there, and I'll tell you why. What Trump wanted to do is not a repeal, it was a redo. Because basically, and again, the situation was that you have people out there on social media blocking things that should not be blocked. I mean, look, there are words we can't even say on YouTube. That's being a publisher. This is why Google right now is in trouble and probably is going to be broken up. YouTube is probably going to be up for sale eventually. You know, when you create the antitrust situations that they've done in the past, it's not only this, it's many other things. You know, you have to sit there and say, like, listen, no, people can't sue us for this. Why am I blocking information by someone? Are they lying to the situation? It's not my, someone in a section. It's not my job to do that. They have a voice of opinion, especially here in the United States. We have a First Amendment. People will say, well, they're a company and stuff like that. Yes, but if you want that 230 protection, you still have to follow the First Amendment. And you have to follow Section 230 as well. Continuing on, in Saturday's interview, Clinton urged the upcoming federal administration to regulate social media based on the legislation passed in California, worst place on ever, and New York, supposedly to protect minors from online harm. See, they're going to say, protect the children. Oh, we have to protect the children.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
But they don't care about the children. We have a video out talking about how they're in New York. there's a contract for bus services, the yellow bus services for schools, and they received, what is it, about 80,000 delays in the 2023 to 2024 school schedule because of this contract. That this contract cannot be changed because of employee protection. And this is a contract that goes back to the 1970s. It should have been abolished and a new contract pulled forward. But they can't do that because they need state legislation to fix that. But then you have the union stepping in on that. No, we need the employee protection, the EPP. Go catch the video. You'll understand why. But this is what is going on. The stupidity to this situation. This is not saving children. This is violating constitutional rights. It is up to the parent to regulate what his or her child is watching. What are they reading online? There are easy ways for parents to put up blockers, and if they don't want them accessing an adult porn site, they have the ability to block it. But kids are smart. Yeah, they'll get around it and all that. But it's the parent's job for that. We need national action, and sadly our Congress have been dysfunctional when it comes to addressing these threats to our children. Again, Clinton told Smirnish Khan, it's not just the social and psychological effects, it's a real harm. It's child porn and threats of violence, things that are terribly dangerous. We need to have guardrails. We need to have regulation. You notice they don't care what's going on in the streets. All of the rioting, the prostitution, the human trafficking on the streets. They care more what's on the internet. Why? Because basically there are people able to point out what they're doing wrong. People are talking together and saying, I don't like this. They don't like people having conversations to that point. Remember, overseas, there are people being arrested for what they're posting on the internet and just basically just standard dislike of the government or dislike of something that has happened, including of crimes, rape. As you see, I can't use the actual word itself. Praying on the streets quietly. You get cops knocking on your door to basically tell you, well, you shouldn't be doing this. I said, why? Why? What do you mean, why I shouldn't be doing this? It's none of your business. This is not a crime. They're trying to make it a crime. Then Clinton added, we should be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave platforms on the internet immunity because they were thought to be just pass-throughs. They shouldn't be judged for the content that is posted. Clinton deemed Section 230, which has regulated the internet speech since 1996, when her husband Bill Clinton was president, the product of an overly simple view that is not up to the challenge of the current social media. If the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor their content, we lose control. Clinton offered, without specifying who, if we meant the political class of which she's been a member of the vast majority all of her life, the government, the two-party system, the people in general, or another unspecific collective. As the Daily Mail reported, a pro-Trump ex-accountant among the many voices from the right concerned about Clinton's statement promptly responded, who is we? Reasons Magazine Elizabeth Nolan Brown commented that Clinton makes Section 230 protection sound like some sort of aberration or anomaly. But since a lot of platforms are basically pass-throughs for the speech of others, Brown added, not holding them responsible for the content they didn't create themselves, isn't crazy at all. If a person on a private property engaged in speech that is somehow criminal, we don't hold property owners liable. If people use the telephone to hatch criminal plans, we don't arrest the phone company. If we use a Sharpie and to write "you are threatening letter" and send it in the mail, you can't sue the makers of Sharpie or the U.S. Postal Service. Brown also lambasted Clinton for making the ridiculous but all too common suggestion that social media companies aren't actively monitoring and moderating content. Actually, they are. They're ridiculously on there, which basically some of them are violating Section 230. Because the first thing they always say, it's for the children. We have to protect the children.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
And this is what they always say. This is the excuse that they give. No other excuse. They'll say misinformation, hate speech to the situation. But who deems that? Who deems the misinformation and hate speech? Hate speech. There isn't. There isn't. If I say something on there and you don't like it, you can't call it hate speech. It may be something that you disagree with me, which is normal, and we can have a conversation about it, but it's not hate speech. Misinformation is basically the same point, is what do you deem misinformative? Tell me what is wrong with what I said. Let me see your receipts. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. Because that's basically the way it is. Because people will sit there and say, well, you have misinformation. I remember, what was it, on Breakfast Club on the West Coast. Politician, they were saying, oh, that's misinformation, what you're saying. He said, would you like the receipts? Because I brought receipts. Would you like me to pull it, And that particular politician had the proof and explained himself. Why isn't that it's not misinformation, that it's basically happening to that nature? Because when you disagree with something that you believe, and this all curbs to Orange Man bad, because this started back years ago during the Obama administration, and then as we got into the Trump administration, people overtook.
Orange Man bad, he lies, he did the lies.
He's overzealous. He can over-exaggerate, similar like Alex Jones. But is he lying? Then you got to prove it wrong. You got to show the situations. When you talk about something and you sit there and says, well, I think it's a misinformation, you're wrong. I says, well, let's talk about it. Let's straight out talk about it. We're human beings. We can discuss these things. This is what they want to take away. This is our freedom of speech. They want to curb what is the truth and what is fiction. That is wrong. There are many dictators from the past and present that does this. That basically they determine what is the truth, and that's the only measure of what you should be talking about. Why? Because they're afraid they'll lose power. They're afraid they're going to lose the money that they're making. You have to remember the Clintons, the Clinton Foundation, and many others, Soros, all that, they would lose money. This is why in the last decade or so, you hear investigations. Even the Chinese want to ban Soros because he's done damage in their country. There are people out there, and it's the old saying, the Joker, that they like to see the world burn for what it is. And they will put their own philosophy up. What Hillary is pushing is some freaking socialist communist thought. But it's actually not socialist communist thought that she's trying to push, even though it is. What she's trying to do is control the narrative. And that's power. When you can control the narrative, that's power. And that's what she wants to do. Is Section 230 a perfect law? No. Some changes do need to be made. But also it has to be enforced as well. Because there are those out there that have been breaking that rule. You see it right on this platform. This is why you have companies like Rumble that have cropped up because of that. Because there's not enough competition against YouTube. YouTube is the #1 streaming site pretty much in the US and pretty much around the world. Remember that. You got YouTube, then you got Netflix, and then everybody else after that. Always put that in your mind. Always put up who's on top and why they're on top. Yes, they have thousands and thousands of videos they could play. But like I saw the other day, there was a show called The Whitest Kids We Know. I think a Whitest Kid Comedy group on that. It was censored here on YouTube. Yeah, that's right. It was censored. And that came out of Shout Studios or through them their production company directly. But meanwhile, YouTube has R-rated movies that they sell online that's not edited, as far as we know, that has language and different subject titles. Some of them they'll run for free. And yet, you still have this going on. If I discuss about Disney, how corrupt they are in their programming, their parks and stuff like that, people chastise me and they say, "Oh, you're misinformed. Oh, you're racist. Oh, you're doing all that." But am I lying? No, I'm not. What's going on with Disney? Because they blame us for all the stuff. No, look at yourselves, because the blame goes straight on to you on what's going on. You're no longer a family company. You have become a political arm of the woke culture. Look at the people you're hiring. Look at the people that have changed your movies and TV series and all that to reflect a political agenda, not entertainment. So comment below. Let me know your thoughts about this. Let me know, should be Section 230 repealed? Should it be adjusted? Should it be enforced? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like, share this video, and hopefully today is the day that I've earned your subscription. So until next time, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye now.